The Untold Power of Love, Motivational Relationships That Changed History. It began with a letter, not one penned in haste or fury, but with trembling hands and a heart full of longing. A single sheet of parchment that would alter the course of a revolution. Napoleon Bonaparte, the iron-willed general who bent nations to his will, wrote endlessly to one woman, Josephine. He called her the torment of my life and the pulse of my heart. And yet theirs was no fairy tale. While he campaigned across Europe, she strayed. When he discovered her infidelity, he was shattered, but not broken. That pain, that heartbreak fueled a fire in him that led to Austerlitz, to the throne of France, to the reshaping of an entire continent. Sometimes, love doesn't lift us gently. Sometimes, it carves us into legends. Motivational relationships aren't always about perfect harmony. They're about the spark that sets ambition alight, the person who stirs your spirit when the world tries to drag it down. Take Eleanor Roosevelt. She was born into a world where women were ornaments expected to be silent, agreeable, and visible. Her marriage to Franklin D. Roosevelt was complex. Some would call it strained, others revolutionary. When she discovered his affair with her secretary, she was devastated. But instead of dissolving, she transformed. Eleanor turned grief into grit, emerging as one of the most powerful human rights advocates of the 20th century. In her pain, she found her voice. And in that voice, millions found hope. Because the truth is, relationships don't have to be easy to be motivational. They just have to wake you up. Consider the friendship between Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony. One was born a slave, the other a Quaker schoolteacher. Their paths should never have crossed, but when they met, something remarkable happened. They didn't just bond over common goals, they pushed each other to think bigger, to fight harder. Douglass challenged Anthony to see race as part of feminism. Anthony reminded Douglass that equality must include women too. They disagreed, often bitterly, but neither stopped believing in the other's potential. Their relationship wasn't comfortable, it was catalytic. And then there's the story of Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, a painter and a muralist, both tempestuous, both brilliant. Their love was volcanic, explosive, destructive, yet endlessly productive. They betrayed each other, they divorced, they remarried, and through it all, they painted. Frida's pain became color. Diego's politics became vision. And the world saw, through their tortured connection, what art looks like when it's soaked in truth. They didn't make each other better people. They made each other immortal. Motivational relationships aren't just about love or partnership, they're about impact. Steve Jobs and Laureen Powell met at a lecture. She was intelligent, grounded, and everything he wasn't. While the world remembers Jobs as the brilliant, volatile visionary who changed technology forever, few know that Laureen quietly anchored him. When he faced cancer, she was his shield. When he became too obsessed with perfection, she reminded him of simplicity. In his final days, it was Laureen who held the center of his world, and who now carries on his legacy, not in devices, but in values. Behind many icons, there is someone who believed when it wasn't easy to. Even war couldn't stop some bonds. During World War II, a young man named Wojtek fought alongside the Polish army. But Wojtek wasn't a man. He was a bear. Adopted by Polish soldiers in Iran, he carried heavy artillery shells in the heat of battle and lifted morale in the darkest hours. He didn't speak a word, obviously, but his presence meant more than any command or order. Men who had lost everything found something to live for in the loyalty of a bear. Sometimes motivation comes in the unlikeliest of forms. Sometimes all it takes is someone, or something, that makes you feel less alone. Then there's the bond that changed the world forever. Mahatma Gandhi and Kasturba. She was with him long before the world knew his name. When he was a young, awkward lawyer with more failure than followers, it was Kasturba who stood by him, not passively, but defiantly. She challenged him, stood up to him, sometimes defied him. When he imposed strict rules on the household, she refused to obey. When he chose celibacy, she reminded him of his humanity. Their love wasn't silent devotion. It was fiery, alive, a constant push and pull that shaped his philosophy as much as any scripture. Without Kasturba, there is no Mahatma. There is just a man with an idea and no one to ground it. History remembers achievements, but behind so many of them are relationships that never made the textbooks. Relationships that didn't just offer support but provoked greatness. Like the curious case of Nikola Tesla and Mark Twain, the inventor and the writer. Tesla, brilliant but plagued by isolation and phobias. Twain, aging, depressed, financially broken. Their friendship was an escape and an inspiration. Twain would visit Tesla's lab and make him laugh. Tesla, in turn, created inventions to ease Twain's ailments. They weren't lovers, they weren't relatives, just two minds who found electricity, in more ways than one, through each other. When Twain died, Tesla wept. Not because the world lost a genius, but because he lost his spark. Motivational relationships don't fit one mold. They don't have to be romantic or lifelong or easy. They can be brutal like Kahlo and Rivera, inspiring like Douglas and Anthony, or tender like Tesla and Twain. They might arise from tragedy, betrayal, or coincidence, but always they leave marks. On lives, on art, on empires. You don't need a perfect partner to chase greatness. You need someone who sees the fire in you, who maybe even lights it themselves. Someone who pushes you to become something you never imagined, even if it hurts, especially if it hurts. And maybe, just maybe, the most motivational relationship you'll ever have hasn't even begun yet.